Relationships ain't easy, and unfortunately, there's nothing you can do to change that, but you can enjoy them more. And if you approach them the right way, they can be more than worth it. So I'm John Sanders. I'm a husband, father, brother, sharing the mistakes and successes that I've made in my own relationships so I can help you with yours. If you're single, struggling to get a date, or if you're married and you feel like you're a million miles away from the spouse that's sitting right next to you, I got something that's going to help you. We're going to have fun, you're going to laugh, but most importantly, you're going to learn something that's going to help you take your relationship to the next level. Or if you don't have a relationship, you'll learn something to help you get one. Let's jump into the podcast. Welcome to the podcast. It's your host, as always, John Sanders. And today I want to mix it up a little bit. So I'm always looking for ways to make the podcast better, make it a little more interesting, or give you guys information in a better way. So I'm going to try a new segment. I'm going to start adding segments to the podcast. So this segment is going to be called That's Probably Why You're Single. So let me explain this a little bit. So I'm trying to add a little levity to the podcast. But the idea is I'm going to come up with one or two, maybe three little tidbits of information to help you guys while you're out there trying to find the woman or man of your dream. So I'm going to point out some things that you should avoid. And then I'm going to try to, like I said, bring some levity. They say one sign of maturity is when you're able to laugh at yourself. So today on this podcast, we're going to start this new segment. And we're going to laugh at ourselves. That's probably why you're single. So the first thing is, if you give too much information on the first date, TMI. So don't tell us about all your failed relationships. Don't give us all the reason why your exes were good for nothings. And the first date is not a time to talk about how depressed you've been lately. We don't need to hear about how much you hate your boss, etc., etc. Keep it simple. Keep it light. On the very first date, keep it surface level. Talk about things like what you do for a living, the state you grew up in, the city you grew up in, the high school you went to, college you went to, what your major was, what you like doing, what you like watching, a book you're reading. Keep it simple. Then you, of course, should be asking questions about the person you're on a date with. And if you're giving too much information on the first date, it's probably why you're single. Another thing, don't go on dates looking like you just rolled out of bed. All right? Let me give you something that I read. This is a New York Post. They did an article, and they talked about a study that was done. And this one was the top 3 contributors to forming a bad first impression. Number 1, smells bad. 66% of the people that they surveyed said that if the person smells bad, it'll make a bad first impression. I get that. Number 2 was being arrogant. And number 3 was dressing poorly. So 49% of the people that they polled said that that was the most, or the number 1 contributing factor to forming a bad first impression. So when it comes to how you look and your appearance and how you smell, make sure you take the time to obviously shower. Men wear cologne, women wear perfume. Find the clothes that look good on your body style. Make sure you have your hair done. Women, do your makeup, nails, all that. Just do a good job of presenting yourself. And if you do, then that already covers you for the number 1 and number 3 reason why people get a bad first impression. So if you're going to dates looking like you just rolled out of your bed, that's probably why you're still single. But there's hope. There is hope. So if you take this advice, there's hope. And speaking of hope, that brings us into the meat of our podcast. You got to have hope. You got to have hope. So recently I was talking with someone, and they're explaining to me basically their frustration of maybe not seeing the progress they wanted to see in or on their journey to finding the man or woman of their life. So I'm going to keep this person anonymous, so you're not going to know who it is. But this is something common. People want their dream guy, they want their dream girl now. They want them yesterday. So a lot of times people are like, what do I do? How do I get that man or woman of my dreams? Because there's always a time that you probably think it's going to take, but in reality, a lot of times it may take longer. And what do you do when it takes longer than you think it should take? So that's what I'm going to talk about today. And I'm going to give you some practical things to work out. And today's going to be all about encouragement. Okay? So you got to keep hope. You got to have hope. I want to start off with this. Everyone has some kind of struggle to go through when they're trying to find their dream spouse. No one just wakes up one day, says, you know what, I've decided I want to get married one day. And then that same day, they find the men or women of their dreams. They get married all in a week, and it's love at first sight, and everything's perfect. That's just not how it works. It can be very difficult. And if you're still dating right now, you know just how difficult it can be. You have to go through rejection. You got to go through crazy people. Sometimes things will be great at the beginning, and then you realize that this person isn't who you thought they were. And then now there's emotions and feelings, and you get hurt. And this starts, for some people, maybe in elementary school, but for most people, in middle school and high schools when this all starts. And the dating world is brutal out there. So what do I do to get between that in-between stage from I've decided I want to get married, or maybe I've always wanted to, and then how do I get through all the Mr. Wrongs or all the Mr. or Mrs. Wrongs and finally get to my dream? So I'll say this. The main difference between those who find their woman or man of their dreams and those who don't is that they simply don't give up. It's really that simple. They don't give up. Now, don't get me wrong. They're still working on themselves, and they're still pursuing, their professional or financial goals. But just because you're pursuing your professional and financial goals and you're working on yourselves, if you still give up on your dream of finding someone who truly loves you and wants to spend the rest of their life with you, it doesn't matter. You still won't meet them. So you probably say, well, it's hard. It's not easy. John, you just explained a little earlier about all the hard things you have to go through, the heartache, people lying, people cheating, being stood up on dates. Is it really worth it? It's hard. I don't want to give up, but at the same time, it's hard. So I get it. So yes, it is hard. And the only way to keep believing, really, is you got to keep hope. And when I say hope, I mean you're believing that if you continue on this path, that it'll be worth it. And there's something at the end of it that you want. Hope that you can find that person. Hope that the person's out there. As long as you have this hope, you can keep going. You can push through all the hurt and all the pain. But when you lose hope, that's when you start to give up. Let me tell you about my story and the struggles that I went through to find my wife, to find the woman of my dreams. So I won't say when exactly or how long ago, but we'll just say many moons ago, I had just been dumped. I like to say, we both decided to break up, but no, I was dumped. I'd just been dumped. I looked up and realized I barely had any friends, or I had kind of ostracized my friends. So I was pretty much on my own. I wasn't where I wanted to be with my finances. I'm living at home with my parents, way past the age that I should be living with them. And things are looking bad. I remember, it may have been a few days after I got dumped, and I was just thinking to myself, I want a wife, and I want someone to love me for who I am and love me enough to want to spend the rest of their life with me. But I was like, I don't even think I could find someone who would even want to go on a date with me. And it was that deep. And so I was looking at everything, all my circumstances. I was like, I don't have an amazing job. I'm living at home with my parents. I just got dumped. And at this point, I don't have any confidence. I'm really close to just being like, maybe I'm supposed to be single for the rest of my life. Maybe, the dream just really isn't for me, And I was very fortunate and lucky, just blessed to have parents. And to be honest, they were probably the only people I had at that time. And they were able to believe in me when I couldn't believe in myself. And they were able to tell me that you are worth it. You do have qualities that women would love to have in their husband. And I mean, you hear your parents say that, and it's kind of like they have to say that. It's just like you can't be a good parent and just tell your kids like, yeah, man, I don't know what to tell you, man. You just suck. I don't think anybody's gonna like you either. Like, you can't be a good parent and say that. So, when your parents say something, you take it with, I don't know. You love your parents and they love you, but sometimes you're wondering, like, are they looking at me objectively? Like, it's that whole thing, like, my mom thinks I'm cool. That probably means you're not cool. But they were able to help me, and through a long process. And I would say it probably took about a year or so to really get, not even back to who I was maybe before I met her or while we were dating, but I would say to even get better and to completely get healed. And I really start believing that I do have qualities that make a good husband, to make a good future father. And I'd been working on myself. I was learning new things so that I could get better jobs, hopefully get my dream job. Because I wanted to show myself as someone who could provide for my wife. I started working on myself, my self-confidence. And through this process, I really believe that I became stronger and pushed through. And I just remember the thing that kept me going, or the thing that I would tell myself so that I wouldn't give up. It's just making these confessions like, I trust God. I've prayed for this wife. By the way, when I prayed for this wife, it was probably one of the first times I prayed. It was just like, God, I don't even believe this is possible, besides the fact that I think you love me. And so anyway, he helped me through that. But the thing that kept me going really was, I would say to myself, I know you're going through a lot of pain, a lot of hurt, but when you look back on this and when you have your wife, you're going to say it was all worth it. And I got to this point where I was like, I don't know if I'm going to meet this girl, tomorrow, or if it's going to be 10 or 15 years from now. And I was like, I'm just going to stay committed to the process. I'm going to keep working on myself, keep meeting people, to continue to discover and walk out, what I was created here on earth for, and to be the best me that I could be. So having hope is what kept me going when things looked horrible. I remember a few dates before I met my wife, and man, they didn't go good at all. Man, I remember after one, I was just like, I'm not ready. I'm not ready yet. So I went back to working on myself. But through all that, I was able to keep my hope, stick it out. And now I have a beautiful wife. I have a son. And like I said, I would do it over again because it was more than worth it to find my wife. So having that hope made all the difference. And so I would tell anyone who's going through the same thing, find at least one person who can go on this journey with you, because you need someone to believe in you when you can't believe in yourself. When you're doubting yourself, when all you can see is the negatives, you need someone to help balance you out. Someone to basically just tell you you're wrong. Like, hey, yeah, I know I see these things over here and they're not desirable, but you're overlooking these other things. And someone who will help you work things out as you self-assess and make changes, change habits, and pursue becoming the best version of you that you can be. You really need that. That's going to make all the difference in the world. Like, No man is an island. So having someone there, community, man, it's priceless. And I would say that there's beyond just having that hope and them being to believe in you when you won't believe in yourself. You also need someone else. So while you're dating, you need someone who knows what you're looking for. They know you. And when you meet somebody, you're able to ask them what they think about this person. And they can be objective and they're going to tell you the truth. Because one of the things that one of the traps people fall into is when you first meet somebody and everything's new. If you guys are vibing and you kind of kick things off real well to start off with, there's so many emotions. Like you can just be high off these emotions and you tend to overlook things. So you need somebody to be like, hey, have you noticed that this person's had 5 different jobs in 6 months? Remember as part of your list, you said you wanted someone who was stable. Maybe you want to be a stay-at-home mom or dad. So you want someone who's very, career-oriented and someone who will be able to make enough money so that you could stay at home. So you may think, because they're saying, that just wasn't a good fit, or the boss, this, and et cetera, et cetera. And sometimes when you got all those feelings going on, it's hard for you to look through the lies or the excuses. But someone who's not feeling all those emotions, they can be like, yeah, I don't know, man. He couldn't have gotten 5 different jobs with 5 horrible bosses within those 6 months. I think the issue is with him. So make sure you have someone you can count on who can see the things that you can't see because you might be blinded by all the feel-good emotions of someone new. So make sure you have someone to go on this journey with you, not only to give you hope, but also to kind of keep you in check and, make sure you're not going to walk off any relational cliff. Try to help keep you from hurting yourself unnecessarily. Just don't do it alone. Have help. So I would say to anyone that's listening to this podcast right now, if you don't have anybody who will be there to tell you that you are worth somebody loving, that you are unique, that you are special, you do have self-worth, then let me, through this podcast, be that person. Tune in every week, and I promise you, I will give you something that's going to encourage you, that will give you hope, and that'll help you take everything on another week. Take it 1 week at a time. Take it 1 day at a time if you need to. But I'll be here for you, and I'll be that person who will believe in you when no one else believes in you. Because I know what that feels like. Like I just said in my story, I was there too. And I am almost 100% sure that I never would have found my wife if I hadn't had someone believe in me when I didn't believe in myself. I don't know where I would be. I don't know if I want to know. I mean, I'd probably be single, and I probably would have just given up by now and just been like, nah, I'm just, what in the cards for me. It's not for me. So keep your hope alive. I would really encourage you. And if maybe it's not me, maybe I'm not the one to keep your hope alive. We all have different personalities, and I'm not for everybody. But find somebody, find something. There's plenty of books, plenty of people out there. So just find somebody. My hope, my dream is that when people listen to this podcast, that it will encourage them. That the people who don't believe they can find someone, that listen to this podcast and they start believing, and then eventually they are more and more confident, and they start saying one day, you know what? I can't get that woman of my dream. I can't have the man of my dreams. And then I hope some people, either through my new segment, that's probably why you're single, or just through the practical steps that I give and the advice that I give, that they'll say, oh, the light bulb will click, and they'll say, well, that's why I keep seeming to run into the same issue. That's why I seem to keep attracting the same guys. That's why I seem to keep attracting the same girls. That's why I never seem to make it past the 3rd date. Those are the kind of questions I want to answer. Those are the kind of people I want to help. I've enjoyed the journey to finding my wife, and when I met her, it was amazing. And I have to say this too, all the struggles and maybe obstacles that I had to go through when I found my wife. It was just crazy how God did it. When I met my wife, I started realizing more and more that the lessons that I learned as I went through those hard times correctly prepared me for my wife. And then for her, the same thing. The things that she went through prepared her for me. And we met at the right time with the right mindsets. Because by the time I got through what I got through, I was more mature. And then I was looking for a woman with a certain level of maturity and a mindset like mine. And she was doing the same thing. She was looking for a man with the same maturity and mindset of hers. And I've said this before on my podcast. I think a lot of times we do things that prolong us finding the man or woman of our dreams. And I think a lot of times it is not going through those hard times, going through those obstacles and learning from them. You know what I'm saying? Not learning how to get through being dumped or even go through a breakup in a healthy way so that you come out better and more mature, not needy or not deciding that since you got hurt, now you're going to hurt other people first. But we're coming out mature, working on yourself. I think that makes a huge difference. That's what will set you up to have the best chance to find true love, find someone who loves you for who you are and wants to be with you for the rest of their life. Start a family with you. That's huge. There's what, almost 8 billion people on the earth. And to think that, how many people do you think you could actually do that with? I'm not a big proponent of the one. I don't believe in the one. I think there are ones. And I don't know how many ones are out there, but there are, let's just say for the sake of the argument, around the world, for each person, there may be around 1,000 people. So just think about that. At 8 billion people, there might be 1,000 people. Now, each one of those people is at different levels of maturity and different mindsets. So it's almost like, I don't know, I'm thinking of Marvel and the multiverse. You know, you make one decision and it changes everything. But different mindsets, different levels. So I feel like that even narrows down that number 1,000 even more. And there's probably people who you can still marry, you could have a good relationship. And there's probably even fewer amount of people that you can marry out of that 1,000. You could have an amazing, or maybe you could say the best relationship. I won't say the best, but there's people who you could have amazing relationships with. And I really believe that the people that you could have amazing relationships with are going to require you to do the most work on yourself and to be further in your journey of being the best version of yourself that you possibly can be. So I say all that to say, if you're single out there and it's been longer than you thought it would have been, and you're starting to wonder, am I really likable? Can I really find someone out there who wants to spend the rest of their life with me, who I want to also spend the rest of my life with? And can they love me for who I am? The answer is yes. And all I can tell you is the best way to speed it up is to learn those lessons that life is trying to teach you right now. Just continue working on yourself so that you can be the best version of you when you come across one of the ones. And I think if you do that, you set yourself up for the best potential outcome. So I hope you guys like this podcast. Let me know what you guys thought about the new segment. That's probably why you're single. Let me know if you want me to do more of that. You know, I'm going to keep trying that out and look for feedback, of course. And today I tried to open up a little more about what I went through. And it's something it's a journey for me. So let me know if you guys want more of that, want more stories about me, what I went through. If you heard something today that just really hit you, that really helped you, let me know in the comments. If you want to add anything, put that in the comments too. If you think someone that you know would benefit from hearing this, please send them a link. Like and subscribe. It helps me out. And it helps me know what content you guys like so I can make more content like that. Thanks again for joining the podcast. Hope you guys have a great rest of your week. And go out and be the best you that you can be. See you later.